The following presentation was recorded at the 2012 SouthEast LinuxFest in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is licensed under a Creative Commons license. For more information about the SouthEast LinuxFest, visit www.southeastlinuxfest.org. The SouthEast LinuxFest would like to thank the following diamond sponsors in 2012 for helping make these videos possible.
SouthEast LinuxFest. Before we start, I would like to thank a few people who have helped us greatly above and beyond, who are not in the program guide, because they've been helping us so far this week. Kevin Tollison, Jared Sutton, Alan Hicks, Robbie Workman, Rob Zero, basically the entire Slackware team. Ronnie Brown, Christy, I'm sorry, I'm Southern, I will butcher your name, Mamjian, Mike Noctegal, Rick Prepara, Eugene Ma, Christopher Covington, Jimmy Dorff, Bill Farrow, Amanda Folson, Gabe Jones, Kevin Jones, Andrew Linnell, Brian McCullough, Pam Nally, and Adam Nicholson. So if you see our volunteers, please thank them. The event could not be held without them. I would also like to thank you guys sitting in front of me, because every year, including this year, the community has outgiven our largest corporate sponsor by more than $1,000. So thank you, supporting attendees as well. So without further ado, I will introduce our morning keynote, Rob Limo. He was the formerly involved in the open source technology group, which you better know as Linux.com, SourceForge, FreshMeat, ThinkGeek. He's a major journalist. He's written for Time. He's freelanced. He's published books with Prentice Hall. Basically, if it's in media, he's probably done it. So without further ado, Rob Limo.
I wish I was as wonderful as I was just portrayed. I'm really, as you can see, I'm an old man. I live in a Florida retirees trailer park with my dog and my get off the lawn sign. No, I don't have one of those. But we are very simple livers, and my 1994 Jeep Cherokee is finally going to go to the auto graveyard after many years of swamp travel. Anyway, today we're not going to talk so much about Jeeps. We can do that later. I'm talking about using Linux to boost your IT career. And first I'm going to sort of semi-define or undefine IT career. I've worked for OSTG, which is now GeekNet, primarily on Slashdot, and I still do, actually. I'm the guy who does edits and produces the Slashdot videos, good or bad. I don't determine the content, I just make them clear and make sure the cuts are right and that there's background music when needed. And I don't decide that they should be delivered in Flash only. That's an executive error. But I don't want to hear it. It just doesn't make any difference to me. I use Flash. I'm a bad man. Because the thing with Linux and IT is programming IT. Yeah. Is fixing somebody's computer IT. Yeah. How about setting up a network? That's IT. Yeah. So it's really hard. I've been through this thing with these people at OSTG, which was OSDN, which was AndoverNet, which is the company. They would always tell me, we want to not target developers as our audience. We wanted to target IT people. And I would constantly say, what about somebody who does both? And I said, well, we'll half target them. See, their thought was people who are in IT buy things. Oh, let's call HP, that's Hewlett-Packard, a sponsor of this fine event, thank you. Love that computer, or the printer, the Linux drivers work well. And it's true, I have one. And the thing is, none of them could ever get it through their heads that programmer by night, IT person by day, that there really was total crossover. And there's probably a lot of crossover in this room. How many of you have been both an IT person and a developer person. Now look at those hands. And the people who didn't put their hands up didn't because they're too lazy to go like that. It's okay, I'm the same way. So, since you are all Windows adepts, with your CompTIA Windows A, B plus C certificates, I'm sure, the question is, how much is Linux knowledge worth in added salary for an IT worker? And it says right there on the slide, and I know what it says because I wrote those slides, it depends. And it does. It depends on where you are and what kind of work you're doing for what kind of employer, or for yourself as a consultant, what kind of clientele, which is also location dependent. Then degrees and certifications, they're good. Provable experience is better. And this is a new thing within the last 10 years, and much more so in the last 3 or 4. Involvement in an open source project is like the gold standard for hiring when you're dealing with technical managers, real managers. About operating systems. Read that. This is what a woman told me who is an IBM Z-Series mainframe marketing person. And this was back in the days when people like me, because I was young punk then, 5 years ago, used to say, are you running Linux on that computer you're using to present at this Linux conference? Well, no, they were running Windows. Well, I'm not one of the tech people, I'm a marketing person. We did that, and she said to me, obviously, the big companies I deal with have every operating system there is running somewhere in their operations. She ran Linux on her laptop, and in fact was a Russian, and had been a programmer for years before she had gotten into marketing. She was pretty real and really nice. Now I'm going to say something that sounds like I'm just going away from what I just said. Okay, so we need to realize that a big company, and even a small one often, has every operating system there is within their confines, or all the major ones anyway. And the heart of IT, you must, to be credible with an employer, you must be able to diagnose and repair basic hardware problems. It's that simple. You know that. They come to you with their broken computers. Your family, your coworkers. Yes, I know, me too. And you know, I have the T-shirt, the Think Geek T-shirt, that says, "No, I will not fix your computer." They cannot read it. And I'm going to tell you about somebody, I will not use a name, because I do live in this retirees trailer park, and in a retiree trailer park, there are actually lots of people with computers. And the reason you have computers is so that you can exchange email with your children and grandchildren up north, and pictures. And for the more adventurous, video chats. Yes, so a neighbor who I'll call Sandy, because we're near the beach, also her name is Sandy, she had a computer that had a blue screen sometimes. It suddenly the screen was blue and then it stopped working. I said, okay. And she said, we'll call him Gick Squid. Fix it. And they reinstalled Windows and they did this and that. And she turned it on and she was chatting with her daughter in Tennessee or wherever, and it blue screened again. Bad news. So the third time she talks to my wife, who is maybe not a computer guru by the standards in this room, but by the standards of 55 plus trailer park, she's pretty hip. Unless you're at Sun City where all the retired IBM people live. That's a whole different order. By the way, just so you know, that's the largest computer group, users group in the world, is in Sun City, Florida, outside of Ruskin, which is where all the carnival people go in the winter. You knew they had someplace, it's Ruskin. Anyway, so finally the computer ended up in my office / workshop / video studio on my bench. And I booted it up and it worked, and then it went blue and stopped. So I took the CD, You can see the CD, it's the Linux one. Actually, it's DVD, and I booted it from that. And it worked, and it ran fine. So I said, Sandy, why don't we try it with this Linux program? And she said, okay. Well, yes. So, she could do email. She said Yahoo, it was just browser. And I got her webcam to work, and that was it. She was happy. Except for one thing. The thing blue screened again. Except it didn't blue screen. It just stopped giving a picture. She was puzzled and upset because she needed her computer because one of her daughters was about to deliver a grandchild. And right after that, she wanted to see the grandchild. All right, fine. So, I looked at it and I looked at it. And finally I did something. I opened it up. I unplugged it. I felt stuff. And the video card was really hot. Real hot. Okay. It was a real fancy video card. This was a computer that was given to her by a gamer child as a surplus. So it had this huge, humongous, like 20 gigabyte, probably 1 gigabyte video card. So I pulled that out and I stuck in a junk one I had. And the computer worked forever and ever. It's probably working at this very moment because she works afternoons. She'd be yakking with the daughter right now. It was a hardware problem. The Geek Squid people assumed it was a software problem. It was not a software problem. And there's also a MacBook Pro under here that is mine. I'm using the house computer for the thing. But my MacBook Pro had a hardware problem, and it was repaired by Marty Connor, who is a Mac hardware and software guy for Google. Marty would like to be a Mac admin. You can't be. He was hired for his Mac skills and Apple knowledge by Google. Plus he can do, he's a master of some of the old Lisp. He's a Lisp master, which is useful. But you can't just be a Linux sysadmin. What do you do when Office people have Windows? And the accounting people can make a very good case that the software they need is Windows only. They're right, it is. But you can't just be a Windows sysadmin either, because somewhere in that company, you got all the major operating systems, right? Especially if it has, even if it's pretty small. You got some artists who are die-hard Mac people. You got those accounting and sales people, and they're using Windows-only software, and then you have the servers and the stuff in back end of programmers, and they have Linux and Unix, and they're happy with it. Oh, and if you want to create a shrine to Steve Jobs, which many people do, we all love Steve Jobs, the man who said you only need one mouse button. I'm not Steve Jobs, I don't know. But if you want to create that shrine and say Apple forever and probably made with a Mac, well, first of all, don't be the worldwide church of Satan, because Apple will ask you to remove that and the Think Different badge from your website. I'm not kidding. They didn't. They didn't want you to think that different. But anyway, you can be an Apple Mac enthusiast. We love you. Don't put up all other operating systems suck banners at work. Read that. The versatile sysadmin never sneers at someone else's operating system preference. So if you are a big Mac addict, you're probably not in this room because this is a Linux conference. But then you may have infiltrated, I do not know. And you may have snow leopard on that Hackintosh. I brought coffee. Coffee and insulin are the two main fuels of old people in Florida. No, we're not shooting heroin. We should. Sorry, it's insulin. But anyway, do not sneer at someone else's operating system preference, ever. They're wrong, you're right. Deal with it, smile. It's like politics. There's libertarians and Democrats and conservatards and libtards, I don't know, in this room, and I'm not going to sneer at any of you because I'm right and you're all wrong, so I don't need to. See this? No. Cthulhu changes his favorite operating system at random intervals. This is why you do not sneer. Today, Cthulhu may love Macintosh. And so when you like Macintosh, Cthulhu is your friend. Do you people know who Cthulhu is? You'd better. See, the thing is, if you treat one operating system better than the others, because of that random change, sooner or later you will anger the old ones. And if you anger an old one, especially Cthulhu, he will suck your soul from your body. That leaves a big mess on the floor, and your wife or husband, whoever cleans it up, will be unhappy, I assure you. Dead people smell bad. All right, here's another bugaboo. I don't use Flash. Well, goody for you. I think you're wonderful, you're pure. If I had a Richard Stallman seal of approval to give to you, I would give it to you now. And then we can find you a studio apartment in Boston at reduced rent to live in. You will not have children. The only girlfriend you will have, who I've personally met, will have been a complete loon. She was cute, but she was really strange. And my wife comes from a long line of witches and root women. They are strange people. One of her aunts was actually picked up and arrested for homicide by witchcraft in the city of Baltimore. And I'm not talking about 1865. I'm talking about like 1988. Yeah, if you read Peter Simon's book, Homicide, Life on the Streets, it's in there, as a matter of fact, because he thought it was amusing too. The detective was Mark Tomlin, who's a very good friend of mine. He thought it was lunatic too, but he was required to do it. And she had killed people. But anyway, she didn't use Flash. She didn't have a computer. She was a root woman. She had voodoo. You do not have voodoo. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. But if you don't use Flash, I'm going to tell you something I've heard some people say in return. Oh, really? I'm your client. I want Flash videos on my website. What you're telling me is that I need a different web designer. Goodbye. You gotta let people have what they want, up to a point. You cannot have Flash. And I went through a period when the only operating system that you could really, from a home, get onto the internet with and see pictures was Windows. This was like Windows 0.1. I had DOS. I liked DOS. I was happy with DOS. I had a real crappy computer and no money at the time. And I actually made a website for my then limo business. That's why the Rob Limo, Robin's Limousine, in the days of 8-character maximum screen names. And I had that, and I made a website, and I couldn't see the pictures. So I went up to the library to look at the pictures. That was a lot of time wasted, wasn't it? What if I just had Windows? Well, the computer I had wouldn't run it, And then somebody came out with Arachne, which was a semi-okay browser that would run in DOS and do pictures. And then later on, I found there was that operating system, something called Linux. Tried that, and I failed. I had trouble. I couldn't get it to run. Tore my hair out. Finally got some help. There was a Linux users group. The president was a guy named Danny Pearson, and the other guy was named Jeff Covey. You remember when you maybe first tried with Linux and you had so much trouble with it, you went down to a Linux users group for help with an installation? Yeah, me too. I did. Jeff Covey is the chief editor for Fresh Meat. I hired him. And Dan Pearson also works on Fresh Meat, although right now he's in the IDL, the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF. Moved to Israel because he needed to get away from his mother. If you'd met his mother, you would understand this. And Israel was as far as he could get on this planet, and he couldn't get an astronaut thing. As far as he could get on this planet, and someplace where he could wear a yarmulke and daven in the synagogue. So he's there. His mother, unfortunately, does go to visit him, and she is an overbearing person. But anyway, Mrs. Pearson aside, there is no room for operating system or software licensing bigotry in the grown-up business world. It's fine when you're a kid. It's fine when you're not feeding a family, okay? When you say, I will only work for nonprofits that do not pollute the world I will only use free software. I will only write free software. If your name is Brian Aker, you have said this and you are successful at it. But Brian Aker made a heck of a lot of money. First of all, he was well paid by then OSD and OSTG. He was the guy who cleaned up Robert Malda's Commander Taco's Perl code, which was written by a college kid because he was one then. And Brian Aker is the guy who made it smooth. And then Brian was also the MySQL guru. He's our database guy, and then he went to work for MySQL as their database architect. Where Monty Wadenius, who's a great guy, one of my favorite human beings on the planet, did pretty well. Brian made his stuff better. And then, as you may or may not have heard, MySQL sold to Sun. And Sun wanted Brian's contract to be abrogated and for him to write whatever they said. And he had a bunch of money from the thing and a house in Seattle, and he said no.
I just wanted to inform people, for folks that didn't know about this whole Sun buying MySQL, they bought it for $1 billion, which
Correct.
is as much as Facebook bought Instagram for. So,
Yes.
to give you a comparison, it's almost as important as Instagram.
Yeah, well. Okay, we can get, after I'm done speaking, we can get into a debate of importance versus money. You know, we can do Nikola Tesla. Okay, and who knows who first made a working television in the US? What was his name? Right, Farnsworth. Name used by Robert Heinlein in a couple of stories as a tribute. He didn't make any money out of it. Fairly important. You know, then we can get into the importance of television. Is it important? I don't know. My father was a big-time amateur radio operator, and I'm really sorry. He said that someday our neighborhoods would be defined by interest, not by geography. I'm really sorry he didn't live to see the internet. He would have loved the hell out of it, because it was everything he wanted. He was also one of those socialist one-worlder techno-utopians that were common in the 50s and 60s. But back to Linux. You've heard about Linux. Okay, yes, Linux skills are valuable in today's IT job market. Okay, start, and I'm reading my own slide that I wrote. I'm double dipping. Think, lots of people know Windows. I have a granddaughter who knows Windows. She helps her friend install, and they're teenage girls, and their purpose in having computers is to chat on Facebook, stuff like that. We got my granddaughters, my teenager granddaughters, we got them some of those really, like $89 Android netbooks. We saved $10 by not getting them the ones with the cameras, because all of the internet trouble I've seen teenage girls get into involves cameras. Don't give them cameras. I'm telling you this, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. Actually, I'm a great-grandfather, which is scary, because this was a granddaughter who got pregnant at a horribly early age, against everybody's advice. But anyway, if these girls know Linux, and they can go into a job interview and say, oh yes, I know Windows. They don't know Linux. You can go in and say, I know Windows and Linux. So you're rare. Runs up your market value. And then the big question, which operating system, Windows or Linux, runs more critical servers? Ooh, I know, it's Linux. True. And I'm talking about big dogs here in Charlotte, Queen City, where I still haven't seen a transvestite. Why do they call it the Queen City? Which, believe me, Bank of America does not run their big servers. And Swift, the transfer program, this all runs on Unix and Linux, not Windows. So the big critical stuff where they pay the big salaries for you to sit and snooze and dick away on Slashdot, now YouTube, which is much more time wasting. When you're doing that for big money, the Windows-only people are fixing desktop computers for a lot less money. All right, now let's talk about certification. In just a minute, I'm going to call up somebody who knows more about it than I do. Let's start. You've heard of Red Hat, right? A North Carolina company. I remember when Bob Young was selling Red Hat on CDs and baggies at a folding table. I really do. I met him back then. He jokes that they had their first Linux thing, and I was the entire, and I'm talking about the entire press corps. I was it. And I was lonely. And then Steve Von Nichols joined in someplace. Is he in this room? Steve, are you up? Stephen? Anyway, he's going to be the evening keynoter. He's much smarter than I am, better educated. But here we are in North Carolina, home of Red Hat. And it is the gold standard, maybe even the red standard, of enterprise Linux training and certification. There's no question of it. Because Red Hat is the gold standard distro for heavy enterprise use, because all big enterprises, it seems, have some proprietary software around. They can only get on binaries. And what distribution are those binaries for? Red Hat. So, like it or not, Red Hat is dominant in that space. And that means that Red Hat training and certification is dominant, and will get you the big jobs, the ones where you sit over at Bank of America and snooze for money. The thing is, Red Hat training and certification are expensive. So you do it for your boss. Do it for the team. Take it for the team. You take Red Hat training and go for Red Hat certification when your company is paying for it. It is beaucoup bucks. Beaucoup bucks, a misused pseudo-French word. And my brother and I learned it in Thailand, where they learned it from Vietnam. Do not ask why we were there, but we saved you from communism. Woo, woo, woo. See, because none of you are, well, maybe some of you are, I don't know. But basically, Red Hat certification is what you get when your boss is paying for it. Okay, LPI, I like LPI. It's a nonprofit, it's all over the place. The certifications are respected. And the training and the testing is like low cost, because it's non-profit. And it's vendor neutral. It's not tied to any one distro. You know, often their training and tests are part of a Linux conference. Why? There's an LPI person right there. Yes, the guy looking for somebody behind him. Yeah, you with the face. That's an Army thing. I want to volunteer. And everybody turns around. My father said in World War II, when they were just leading up to that, he was in OCS at the college, Ohio State. And he said he was in uniform, and there was a politician said, "Our boys will lick them Huns." My father said he kept turning around to see where our boys were, and then he was on a troop transport going to North Africa. All right, LPI though, Ross, it might as well come up here, because last night I was thinking, you know, I can ask him questions and then regurgitate them to you, or he can just join me and, you know, straight from, I'm the horse's ass, you can get it straight from the horse's mouth. See, and he's taller too. And he's wearing an LPI shirt, which I am not. But the thing is, an LPI certificate will impress a human resources person just as much as a Red Hat certificate, or possibly a Green Hat certificate if you had one. Because here is the dirty secret of all IT certifications. And see, there's little words at the bottom that are hard to read. All the rest of the words in my slides are big and easy to read, unlike some slides I see somewhere. I made little words, because that's a dirty secret. The certifications really only impress HR people and non-technical managers. Okay, we'll get into what impresses the real people later. Let's start by talking about, I'm just going to hand him the mic. Tell him about LPI. Pitch him. We like LPI.
Oh. Holy cow, there's a bunch of you out there. I was sitting in the front row and it's like, that's all right, we're used to public speaking. So Robin mentioned Cthulhu, that's the original HP. Lovecraft, that is.
Yes.
I tried to catch him with coffee in his mouth. It's more interesting that way when he turns into a fountain.
We ate breakfast together. It was an amusing breakfast. Should have been there.
The server will never be the same. The guy in the restaurant, yeah, not the other server. One of the things, I see a couple of the guys in here, and they clap the loudest, thank you, for that were here yesterday for the exam cram. So one of the things, and props to our friends at Red Hat especially, because kids come up to me all the time, people transitioning, everybody when they come to the shows, they want to know, can I get a job with your certification? Well, yeah, you can get a job with our certification. And they go, well, Red Hat's hiring right now. Good, go get a job. Go get your RHCT, RHCA, or RHCE, or whatever, and do that. But the thing is the industry changes all the time. So why don't you go ahead and get the vendor neutral, distribution neutral certification while you're at it. If you studied for the RHCX exams, I just said the examiner word, if you studied for those exams, you're pretty close to being able to pass the LPI exams. One thing you may not know, and this is something that our partnerships have really helped out with, is and this is the LPI guy telling you this, if you go to CompTIA and get their Linux Plus, which is now the same exams as LPI. We're the engine underneath CompTIA's Linux Plus. Do you guys know that? Okay. The old Linux Plus was kind of like, I was like a Windows and A+ admin sat down and wrote a Linux exam. Okay. I was involved in it, and I know. But if you go get that exam, go do the two CompTIA Linux Plus exams. CompTIA will give you the Linux Plus cert. They send a data packet over to us, and we give you a complimentary LPIC 1 cert. You get 2 for 1. No, seriously, this is, so you've already got your RHCT or RHCA or whatever it is, and now you go and get the CompTIA Linux Plus. We give you a complimentary LPIC 1, and in the welcome packet, Novell SUSE, which is now SUSE, has an offer in there that if you fill out a form and present your LPI ID, they'll give you the Certified Linux Administrator cert. You now have every important industry certification, and you only took the RHCE exams and the CompTIA.
Okay, I don't want to stop you, but we're going to go on. You're going to be back. Don't go away. Oh, all right. Don't go away. I wouldn't. He's funnier than I am, too. The thing about certifications are problems. Now, they have lost value in the last few years. All of them. This is not saying LPI sucks. This is everybody. I blame Microsoft. Just flat out, Microsoft ruins industry certifications. Have you seen those headlines where the 8-year-old boy became a certified Microsoft professional? There's been more than one set. Because see, Microsoft is caught in a bind. They portray Windows as easy. You don't have to hire expensive people like you guys to make the stuff work. That's their pitch. So it has to be easy. So their tests have to be easy to pass. So you have a lot of semi-qualified people. But, I'm going to tell you something. I knew some guys who had a little computer consulting business in Baltimore years ago, and they wired up the computers for little businesses and stuff and put the software in, and they made a living. They didn't get they'd go to the synagogue, they'd take care of their children, go on vacation every summer they lived a nice middle-class life in Pikesville. And then Microsoft put out this thing, they were coming out with this Windows thing that was going to be so easy that you wouldn't need to hire professional outside help to run it. Really, that was their pitch. Remember that? So one of these two guys, and they're scared they're going to lose their business, goes to Microsoft's introduction of Windows thing in DC. He comes back, tells his partner, don't worry, we're safe. And they're still in business. So yeah, they were safe. Okay, here's another thing about open source I want you to think about. Here's a statement. I worked on the MJ Ultra Bottom Secret Top-Selling Pro Proprietary Lands Measurement and Actuarial Program. It was really hot stuff, and it's very successful in the marketplace. And as your interviewer, I might say, really, can you prove it? You can't show me what code you wrote. It's a black hole. It's proprietary software. I've contributed to the Linux kernel. Here's some of the code I wrote. See, you can point to it. It's got your name on it. True of many open source. Oh, I have leadership skills. Oh, right, you run the blah blah project. We can tell, oh, it's number 4,300,000 on SourceForge. Must be cool, but it's useful. Popularity and utility are not identical. Once again, Here's the big question. It's going to happen. This PC won't boot. Please fix it. That's the way I would test a hardware guy. I don't know about you. Yeah. If it won't work, if you can't make the computers work, we don't need you, really. And that's true, because we all know that computer people know everything about computers. Programmers know how to make hardware. I do strongly recommend, if you have never done it, that you assemble at least 1 or 2 PCs from scratch yourself. Get one of those kits at Newegg, or if you live where I do in Florida, you can go still to Circuit City, which is Tiger, same thing, and buy the kit, and they're cheap. Make one. It's good experience if you haven't. And now, like I said, premiums for certifications have been going down. And that's something that, again, Ross is better. He follows this stuff. I look at it from the outside, and I write a column. I read a column for Tech Target, their IT knowledge exchange. It's called Climbing the IT Career Ladder. It's pretty apropos about what I'm speaking about here today. And I quote these Foot Partners guys a lot because they're real, genuine, don't care people. Now, there was a whole spate of stories like the Linux Foundation will run a survey that says, oh, Linux jobs are great. You should all learn about Linux. Linux is taking over the world next year. The International Space Station will run on Linux. Everything is Linux. Coming up Linux all over. Yeah, well, Microsoft says Microsoft Azure is going to dominate the cloud server market. No, it's not. But they say it. See, everybody's got an axe to grind, so you have to go to somebody independent. As a journalist, I've tended to be, I am the independent guy. I don't give a shit. I just, go out and get the facts, and I type them down. If I have an opinion, I add it on, and that's it. I'm not getting paid by Hewlett-Packard or Mandriva, remember them, or anybody else. I'm getting paid by the publisher, or I'm just writing for fun, which I do sometimes. Okay, so let's look at Foot Partners. If you're in a position where you're hiring a lot of IT people or you're hiring contractors, you're willing to pay thousands of dollars for their rather exhaustive research, and it's worth it to you. If you're a common everyday bum, which you probably are, you still can get a lot of their free stuff. And it'll give you a good idea of how much salary you should get. If you're drastically underpaid, look around. If you're drastically underpaid because you're working for a nonprofit and you love the work, stay. That's why I say it depends on this sort of thing. Money isn't everything. There are places, I know a guy who works for a public library system in Maryland. He gets paid fairly little, Phil Shapiro. He writes on the side, and he loves his job beyond belief. It's something he's working, it's something he'd do for nothing. In fact, he started as a volunteer. More money isn't going to take him away unless his wife has another kid, which is looking possible. But anyway, Foot Partners is a truly independent source. Now, a less independent source. Ross, how much is certification, LPI certification, worth in the job marketplace?
Oh boy.
I was going to ask him, then I would have interviewed him and regurgitated, so we're just doing it live.
He's recording it now. So how many of you are, let me finish the question. How many of you are DBAs, web designers, application designers, somebody who works on the application layer, not a sysadmin? How many of you? Okay, now keep your hands up. Sorry, a little bit of exercise. You guys got plenty last night, I know. Because I was there. And I walked up behind some of you and clapped my hand today, and you jumped. How many are developers? Okay.
Put up both hands.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, put them down. So here's the message to you, and this is something that we've seen a great deal of. You used to be able to be, and I dare to say it, a prima donna. You used to say, yeah, well, what? Fix the server? Just get the server guys to do that. We don't do that stuff. What protocols? We got the network monkeys for that. We don't need that. Sorry, in today's job market, if you show up and you're a prima donna and all you do is one thing, even if you do it exquisitely well.
Excuse me, my computer's broke. Can you help me make it work?
Don't we have the hardware junkies for that?
Oh, no, we laid them off. That's why we hired you.
Uh-oh. That's not in my contract. Oh, what? I have no contract?
You're Brian Aker? If you're Brian Aker and you were a big beneficiary of that $1 billion sale to Sun, and you hate Oracle with a passion if you're Brian Aker, I don't, he does, then you can say that. You're rich, and you have a house with no mortgage in Seattle that you rent out rooms in, and more than one girlfriend.
Multitasking is good in some cases.
Well, you know, just remember, excuse me, political side of thing, very brief. I believe in traditional marriage, biblical marriage. I'm a very bad Jew, really. He watched me eat sausage, pork sausage for breakfast. I'm in the South, it abrogates. But the thing is, traditional, read your Bible, people, read it. It says over and over again, a marriage is pretty much one man and all the women he can grab. It's true. That's traditional marriage. Romney's grandfather and great-grandfather were right. This modern, stupid, liberal, libtard crud of one man and one woman doesn't work. We know that.
Why is that? Because I don't have enough direction in my life?
Well, you know, we have to have laws, otherwise we'd all leave our wives and marry men. It says, you know, I wasn't trying to. Anyway, be traditional.
Where were we?
We were fixing servers.
Meanwhile, back at the server farm.
We were fixing servers while thinking about our many wives.
The server room door locks, yes. So one of the things the message I have for you is the one that hiring managers talk to us about all the time. We're kind of at the crux of where everybody says, okay, I want to get my certification. Okay, get your certification. Then they say, what does certification provide me? How many of you have been a hiring manager? Okay. What's one of the things that you look for? You look for qualified people, right? Can you personally vet everybody on your project? Used to be the hands would skyrocket up. I got 2 or 3 people in there. It's not a very big project, no problem. Last project I did was an integration between 2 systems, 19 different sets of people. Okay? Nobody can vet that many people. So the problem is if you can't vet them, you have to turn to an independent third-party metric that says they're at least this good. Not they're this great, but they at least don't suck this much, okay? Sorry, it's true, okay? Talk to HR people. Are they looking for rock stars? No, they're looking for people who show up every day and do something consistently.
Many years ago when I was a child, my father owned a machine shop called Roland Miller and Associates, guess his name. And this was in Los Angeles, and he was a big union believer. He would hire only union machinists because, number one, he didn't have to worry about health insurance or vacation funding. That went through the union. They paid a little fee, and it wasn't that much, and that was it. But the big thing was, he said, when he hired a journeyman union machinist, that guy would show up, he'd be sober, and he could throw him on a milling machine with a blueprint, and the guy could make it. He knew he was buying, you know, he was paying a premium for a union guy, but it wasn't a huge premium, and the big thing was the guy was certified. He showed up, he could work today. And when you're on a tight defense contract, you need that.
So the other thing is, and this is a key one, is do you know how you get an interview? What gets you the interview? Anybody know? You sort. If you're equal to everybody else, they give you points for everything. Okay, HR people are very organized. They put you in a big spreadsheet and everything equals points. And if you have 2 certifications and somebody else who's similar to you has 1 certification, you're probably going to get an interview and maybe they won't. Or you both get an interview. The key is get the interview. If you're standing around outside the candy shop of jobs looking in going, God, that looks really good, but you know, I don't do certifications and I'm not going inside that store. Sorry, hungry's good, but you know, getting a job is better. So if you're a hiring manager and you're trying to figure out if people are good enough or they're qualified or whatever, there's a lot of historical value in certifications. What was the joke you told me yesterday? I can't remember which one it was. Oh, what do you call out of a class of 400 in medical school, what do you call the person who graduates 400th? Exactly. Oh, right? That's why we have minimum qualification standards, okay? That person is a doctor.
And we salute the guy who graduated last in his class at West Point, too. Or we have trouble.
Yes, you do.
We were first in our class at the intelligence school.
Yes, if you're an E5 speaking to a brand new second lieutenant, the thing that you may think is I've been promoted 4 times more than you, but that's not what you say.
Well, the reality is, Okay, now both he and I have had this experience. You've heard the things about, the lieutenant with the map and gets lost, and you have the sergeants who know where everything is. Yeah, well, we were both of us at different times. We're the guy who was never lost, with the second lieutenant who knew nothing. The smart ones listened to us. The dumb ones, I don't know. I only really had one dumb one ever who ordered me to do something I figured would kill my squad, so we didn't do it. And it was a mutiny. He threatened me with court-martial, and we went back, and he was all fumed to the battalion commander, who called me over, and I talked to him, and that lieutenant disappeared. I have no idea what happened to him. He probably transferred him, hopefully, to someplace.
He's the morale officer in Kamchatka right now.
Well, this was a long time ago. This was a long time ago, back when sometimes officers who were irritated, really stupid, sort of died in the field.
This is the open source compliance officer somewhere.
Yeah, well, no, actually, don't laugh. I have a friend, John Weathersby, who's busily working to get open source into the federal government and is succeeding heavily. There's an interview with him on tv.slashdot.org that I did, a Skype interview. He's a good guy. And he has a Kel-Tec 9mm carbine, so don't mess with him. I have a high point. It's terrible. Guys talking about software, we both live in the South, so we talk about our guns, and we show them to each other on Skype. You don't want to know. But really, what is a certification worth? See, we can't put an exact value on it. Depends on day of the week and what city and country you're in.
So some of you know.
But
So I stand like this.
he's looking for the other T. It's not
That's
there.
right, that's right, yeah. They shouldn't put mirrors behind these. So the thing is, come see us in the booth, right? We do these at all the shows. We do the Exam Cram Lab, which is basically, you guys were at it yesterday. We go after and give you all the information that we can about the exams, and you get a chance to go take the exams on Sunday at half price. So go try one. That's the key thing. And the other thing is that go and talk to your hiring managers, go talk to other people about certification and see what it's worth. So basically, when Rob has a pretty good show, but the thing is that when you're in open source and you're a professional, you need to help everybody else advance the cause, right? We all work together. And the way that we work together is to make sure that open source has the most professional front that it can. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you wear a suit and tie. That means you're professional. Sorry, did I look over this way?
No, many years ago when I worked at, I'll just say now, thank you, Ross. We love you. He'll be at the booth. Go talk to them. Both for yourself and for your employers, if you are in or know if you're on the hiring side of it. It's good stuff. And if you were to go as a contractor, let's say you have a company, and you're going after a contract, you say, oh yeah, well, all of our people are have LPI Linux certifications. Really? That sounds good. Where do I sign? Because you're dealing pretty much with people at some point who make the financial decisions who are not technically hip. It's just the way it is. They're Army officers. They sit in the office and they have enlisted people to do the work, but you got to get them to sign off. And that's why there's this big but here. Even though we're knocking it, training is valuable. See, I'll laugh at it, but we'll laugh, but training is valuable. A four-year degree is still the best ticket to a good job. Yes, I know they cost too much. Everybody's in debt and the country's going to collapse. Don't worry about it. We're going to inflate our way out of the debt problem. It's the way it's done. I don't care whether your name is Romney, Paul, or Clinton, or whomever, but President Clinton in 2014, 2015, 2018 will start the inflation, will not admit it, but the value of the dollar is already, it's the way it's done. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's been happening since and Zhu formed the first intertribal union, the first government. So get a four-year degree. Get it in an appropriate field, a technical field where you can earn some money. Second, well-regarded industry certifications can help get a job or promotion because, again, what is it worth? It can be worth job versus no job, which can be a considerable amount. And here's where the but comes in. Demonstrable skill is the best ticket to work that there is. Can I give you the broken computer and you make it fixed? You're hard. Well, here's some stuff about some good words. If you've already got Linux skills and experience, you're in a good position for landing a Linux job or upgrading to a better one. This was in PC World in April. Early May, Linux professionals have reason to be optimistic about the future as Linux is being considered a priority skill this year. Companies are on a major lookout for development and systems administration skills. This was written by Shailaja Ramanuni for Linux for You. Anybody here subscribe to Linux for You? Right, and so you know Mayank Sharma is the editor, right? My buddy. For many years, I've been stayed at his house. I want him to come visit me. But it's an Indian publication, India. They're really short of Linux administrators if you want to move. Drive on the wrong side of the road, eat spicy food, be careful about, I've seen people there wash vegetables, go to the restaurant just below the sewer outflow in the river. Be real careful, but it's a cool and interesting country, different. And they need Linux admins and general people as instructors, probably, if you're good. So you can get paid. I've actually been offered jobs, editing jobs and such in India, for fairly substantial salaries. I mean, substantial by American standards, which is insane by Indian standards. You can live like you. Come here. Kind of life, you know. Yes, Raja. Intel loves Linux. You've heard of Intel? Anybody here heard of Intel? Yeah, I thought so. Kind of like AMD, but bigger. And they're on a big push with this Parallel Studio and HPC and multi-core. This is a very big deal for them because it's big profit for them. And like in April, was it April? Yeah, they had a big conference in Istanbul in Turkey about high performance and multi-core computing. And they had a whole lot of videos that they made of the engineers who spoke there. I edited those videos. They're on a SourceForge site called Go Parallel, which is Intel paid. It's all, Intel's great, believe me, on that site. But the thing is, it was kind of like you'd listen to these guys and they're talking about, well, you know, this is developing for high performance multi-core. We have 16 core Linux, Windows, Linux, and more. And we work with Linux, Windows, and Linux. And it was like Linux, Windows, just Windows, Linux. Windows was sort of like, oh yeah, for the office people maybe. And these are guys who give their presentations. They use SUSE, they're Germans. And they mean it. If you're going to be a developer at or for Intel in this stuff, you're going to develop on and for Linux primarily. And these guys are not paid poorly. The ones I'm talking about there were Germans and Turks. I do not know about living in Turkey. I grew up in Southern California. We had lots of Armenians, not just Kardashians. We had lots of cute girls with black hair and long names around. And their parents taught us that Turks are evil. I'm not going to go there. We're not in California. But now I'm going to tell you the real secret of the whole thing. You want to be a healthy, happy, prosperous, fulfilled person. I'm ending. See, he's holding up the 5-minute thing just when I'm getting ready to close. Isn't that amazing? Clock. Business. You don't work in a vacuum. I don't know where you work. I don't know what kind of work you do, but it's not in a vacuum. You don't have computers just to say, I have a computer. Nobody uses Salesforce to say, I use Salesforce. They use Salesforce because they're trying to sell stuff, and it helps them. They use this and that software because it helps them do something else. Produce car parts. Warehouse and ship the car parts. I know a guy who's a sysadmin for a fish farm. Don't laugh, it's huge. They supply all the aquarium supplies for Walmart. It's insane. And their inventory grows if you input food. And so what is their inventory? It's really, it changes. So it's a big, they had to write their own software because there's nothing out there that really works. There's some stuff for livestock does the same thing. Learn the business. Anybody here know anything about bookkeeping? Yeah, some. That's a very basic business function. It's like, remember spreadsheets? That was the first thing that computers were really used for in business. Go to the junior college. It's not expensive. Take a bookkeeping course. You'll find it easy because you, by definition, know the math. You'll find the math easy. So you won't struggle with it, but you'll learn the terminology and what they do and how they use those numbers that you help them process. Take business courses. Learn about marketing, a marketing course. Anything. You don't have to take them all at once or all of them, but learn the business functions for which your computers are being used, for which you are writing the software. Read what I said here. This is a great slide. The guy who wrote this must be, well, I wrote it. Knowledge of the business aspects of your company plus strong technical skills equal career gold and happiness. And we like that, and that's all I'm going to say, because there is no better word to end this kind of presentation with, no better word than happiness. Oh, I'll be around out here with a video camera interviewing people for Slashdot videos today and tomorrow in general. So round me up. I'll be the guy with the, well, you know what I look like.
When we created Asterisk over a decade ago, we could not have imagined that Asterisk would not only become the most widely adopted open source communication software on the planet, but that it would impact the entire industry in the way that it has. Today, Asterisk has found its way into more than 170 countries and virtually every Fortune 1000 company.
The success of Asterisk has enabled a transition of power from the hands of the traditional proprietary phone vendors into the hands of the users and administrators of phone systems. Using this power, our customers have created all sorts of business-changing applications, from small office phone systems to mission-critical call centers to international carrier networks. In fact, there's even an entire country whose communications infrastructure runs on Asterisk.
Digium has always been about creating technology that expands communications capabilities in ways that we could never have imagined. And that's part of what's game-changing about Digium. Today, we're doing it again, this time by introducing a new family of HD IP phones that extends control of the user all the way to the desktop.
The launch of these new products represents the next phase in Digium's history of innovation. These are the first and only IP phones designed to fully leverage the power of Asterisk. When we first discussed our expectations for building a family of phones for use with Asterisk, our requirements were pretty simple. We asked the team to build the phones such that they were easy to install, integrate, provision, and use. I think you'll soon agree our engineers have delivered on that goal. User feedback is validating that when it comes to operation with Asterisk-based systems, including our own SwitchVox-based product, these are the easiest to use, best integrated, most interoperable products on the market today. The Digium family of phones will initially include 3 IP desk phones, uniquely designed to complement any Asterisk or SwitchVox-based solution. These phones are different for a number of reasons. First, they're exclusively designed for use with Asterisk. Secondly, we've made it really easy to auto-discover and provision the phones. Next, we've made it easy for the phones to access information inside of Asterisk, allowing tight coupling between an application and the phone. Additionally, we've created an applications engine that allows users and developers to create and run their own apps on the phone. And finally, we've done all of this at a very compelling price point. At Digium, we're always thinking of ways to give our customers the best value in business phone systems, and also give them the power to create their own solutions for any communications challenge.
We'll continue to push the boundaries, not only to make Asterisk cooler, faster, and more technologically feature-rich, but to make Asterisk and VoIP communications even easier.
And together, we'll change the way the world communicates.
Again.
Cloud stacks are everywhere. This is the way to better utilize all your resources, and it makes managing all your resources pretty easy.
All of the innovation is happening in open source.
The collaborative nature and of the community, and the speed at which these deficiencies, these bugs are getting discovered and fixed is a thing that really shows the power of the open source community.
It is global, and it's definitely because of the users.
Community people are extremely friendly and always ready to help.
If you go onto IRC any day, you'll see these guys helping each other out, and they're all doing it like in a selfless manner.
The product is transparent for everyone. Everyone can look at the code base. Everyone can see how CloudStack is being built. Nothing is proprietary. Everything is open.
In many ways, it's absolutely vital to the ongoing health of CloudStack.
The most exciting event in recent memory for me was our first developer boot camp. And our call gave people, I think, maybe 2 weeks notice to come attend. I was expecting 25 or 30 people. So we ended up with 87 people and had to go get more chairs into the room twice.
Everything within cloud computing is commodity and is open source. And so I don't think that you'll see anywhere where open source is not pervasive in cloud computing. And so I think it's an assumption. I think when you talk about cloud computing, you're really talking about open source cloud computing.
CloudStack is a robust solution for large deployments.
You have dozens of data centers and thousands of servers in each data center. Hardware is going to fail, and CloudStack is designed to handle, number one, that mass scale. Number two, it's designed to handle the failure that inevitably happens in large deployments.
We started working on CloudStack over 4 years ago, and it was the original set of people working on it had a background of delivering software to telcos and service providers.
Lots of QA, lots of users actually using it.
High availability is the key feature. Multiple hypervisor support, different network models. You can pick up whatever suits you better.
CloudStack management server can be deployed in different physical machines.
It definitely has a huge footprint. It's being deployed everywhere.
There's a major movie studio that they were using CloudStack. They were using it to transcode video, and I thought that was terribly fascinating. What I found more fascinating is what they did during lunch, where they would spin up 50 or 60 game servers. Then as soon as lunch was over, they would destroy all the instances and go back to doing real work.
CloudStack is vast. It touches so many different aspects, and there's no one person that's kind of like a master of all those realms.
I think CloudStack as a project is going to be one of the leaders, simply because it's some of the most featureful and robust platforms out there.
I don't see any limits to the CloudStack.